to get started there. Thank you. Just getting ourselves set. So why don't we jump into things here? Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for bearing with me on that little start there to get the slide deck up and running in a nice, clear view. Welcome to the first webinar showcase from Bit by Bit, why and how to back up your Office 365. I am very excited today to be accompanied by Dave Wallen and Matt McDermott from Spanning. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today.
Great to be here. Thanks.
Thanks.
Dave is Director of Product Marketing, and Matt is Director of Product Management and is also an Office 365 MVP Most Valuable Professional. It's an award you get from Microsoft for working with the community at large on education like he's doing here today. So again, great to have you guys here. We are going to do something a little feature we don't normally do here. And based on my start already with technology, I'm a little bit nervous, but we added some polls to today's webinar. So I'm going to kick us off with a poll. First of all, to kind of break the ice a little bit, and secondarily, to give everyone the opportunity to get engaged and also work with the poll on your side as well. So before I ask the first poll question, I'm going to set it up with this next slide, which, since we're all working from home, or many of us are working from home, not all of us, this is a fun would you rather one. So let me show the image and then I'll put the poll up. Here's the question. You're at your home office. Would you rather be stuck in your home office with the thermostat stuck at 90 degrees, your dog is barking, or a squeaky chair? So let me officially launch this as a poll, and everyone can vote on this question here. We're going to launch it right now. All right, so everyone should have the question. Would you rather be stuck at home at your home office with your thermostat at 90 degrees, a barking door, or a squeaky chair? If everyone would submit, we'll give another 3 or 4 seconds, and we'll close the poll, and we'll share the results with everybody right now. And here they are. All right, and the winner is squeaky chair. Matt, did you go with the thermostat again? I know you told me you were more comfortable with the warmth than anything else.
Oh, absolutely. I'm fine with the warmth. I can't handle it. Even though I have a dog, having the barking dog would be rough on me.
Okay, got it. So anyhow, just a little fun to get us started. I'm going to jump back into the presentation, and we will have a couple polls more relevant to the specific content. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Everyone is on mute, but listen-only mode, I should say. We want to encourage questions. We got a handful of questions in before the webinar, so that's great. We'll have them when we go to Q&A. But if you have a question, let me know. If you want to ask a question, we'll take you off mute later on. The other thing I want to say is that we'll never get accomplished in 30, 35 minutes with Q&A, everything that you may want to know about this. The idea is for us to be able to give you an overview, share a little bit about what this product is, what this solution is, how it works. And if it's something that you think you might be interested in your business, you simply let us know, and we can certainly set up another conversation. So we'll get as much done as we can today. We'll hop into the agenda here, a little bit by bit overview, a spanning overview. We'll talk about why you need to back up your Office 365 data, how to do it, and as well as we'll do a demo of the product. So Matt will show us a demo. We'll let you know how you can request a 14-day free trial or a custom demo. We'll do some Q&A. And you'll see the last agenda item here is that we are going to have another webinar on February 23rd. Today's webinar, the backup, the cloud-to-cloud backup, is focused on Office 365. With that being said, the spanning solution works for Office 365, G Suite, and Salesforce. So keep that in mind as we're going through the presentation today, as we're doing the demo today. The demo would work a little bit different. You'd see that on February 23rd. But if this is something you found of interest, you have a colleague within your organization that is responsible for Salesforce, or maybe you are also responsible for Salesforce, please consider coming back, or when we set up an appointment, we can review both of those with you. So I know a lot of people already know us at Bit by Bit. I recognize the name of the vast majority of people here. Thank you. A lot of people we've met before or we're meeting for the first time, so thank you as well. Just some highlights. We've been in business since 1987. We do managed services, cloud solutions, cybersecurity, and certainly the solution with backup has a cybersecurity component to it, application development, and enterprise facts as well. So a little bit by bit, is there anything, if you see anything here that you want to talk to us about, please let us know, or maybe you don't see something here and you want to talk to us about it, please let us know that as well. So Dave, maybe you could give us the overview of Spanning.
Oh, real simple. Spanning is a Kaseya company. We're the leader in SaaS cloud-to-cloud backup, proven and trusted by more than 10,000 organizations to provide enterprise-class data protection for Office 365, G Suite, and Salesforce.
All right, great. And so what we're going to do is we're going to hit another poll question or two. And the intent of these poll questions is really to set the stage for the day, to really drive home some points around what Microsoft does, what Microsoft is responsible for in relationship to backing up your data, and where that may vary in terms of what we might think they're responsible for, or whether Spanning is responsible. So the next question, real simple, I think it's launched, very simple. Does Microsoft back up Office 365? Does Microsoft back up Office 365? All right, we'll give it about another 10 seconds here. I see a lot of people have voted, but there's still a lot still voting. I can see the vote taking place. All right, we're going to wrap it up here in about 5 seconds. All right, so we're going to share the results. The results of the question, does Microsoft back up Office 365? 31% of our users say yes, 69% say no. Dave, you want to just talk about this a little bit, or and then we can pose the next question, which is a very, well, somewhat subtle, but not subtle difference between the two.
So I would say let's hold off on answering the questions till we hit the right part of the presentation. But so
Right.
I think it's just we want to remember that most people said no.
Right. So 69% said no, 31. So that was to, does Microsoft back up Office 365? And here's the next question of our polls. And this question is the following, a little bit different. Is Microsoft responsible for Office 365 data protection? Dave, you got the stats on the other one? I want to write it down. So 69% of the people said no to Microsoft backing up, right?
I am such an averager. I remember saying it was about 2/3 said no and 1/3 said yes.
Okay, I had about the same. So 31 said yes. And this question a little bit different, which is Microsoft responsible for Office 365 data protection? I think, we're going to close this up in a second. I think you'll see, as we go through the presentation, why these questions are being asked. So we're going to wrap it up. A lot of people voted, and here is the outcome of this one. So in this case, 82% of the folks said no, and 18 said yes. So great, we'll keep this in mind. Dave and Matt are going to answer these questions throughout the presentation. And Dave, in the meantime, I am going to hand over control here so you can pick it up in just a second and present from this point. I feel like I'm passing the baton to you.
Okay, we got it.
All right. I think you should have control at this point.
Now we do. All right, is it showing the right screen?
Right now, it's just showing the webinar screen, not the slide deck.
Okay. So I want to share my screen. It doesn't give me an option. There it is. Okay. We good now?
Yeah, but you're at the top, so you just want to fast forward to, oh no, you're right where we want to be. Sorry, you got it, Dave. Thank you.
Okay. And let me get this screen back up. All right. So yes. Oh, what did that do there? There we go. So yes, organizations do lose SaaS data every day. In fact, more than 3/4 of businesses that use SaaS applications will suffer a data loss in a given 12-month period. And what makes matters worse is it takes nearly 200 days to detect that loss. Now, one of the questions we asked, and most people got this right, is that IT still owns data protection even if they no longer own the application platform, right? Back then, when you owned all of your applications, there was a whole lot to worry about. And the idea was, hey, I'm moving to a SaaS application so that I can offload a whole lot of this infrastructure and a whole lot of this application availability requirements. And you did that. 3 things you're still required to do is secure your users, secure your data, and administer the application. So as we said, as most of you out there know, the reality is that Microsoft is responsible for Office 360, that you are responsible for Office 365 data protection and not Microsoft. Now, let's remember that Microsoft's data centers are designed with world-class disaster recovery capabilities, and they're going to protect you from any conceivable infrastructure threats. But Microsoft can't protect customers from the most common causes of data loss: ransomware and malware attacks, human error, malicious behavior, and sync or configuration errors. And this is why, because it's such a vital platform, we often think of Office 365 as something more than SaaS, but technically and legally, that's what it is. And joint management of SaaS is referred to as the shared responsibility model. This is where the customer is considered the controller of their data and the vendor acts as the processor of that data. And these terms, processor and controller, have been codified in regulations like GDPR and HIPAA. A part of that means that Microsoft is totally responsible for application availability, and they provide a financially guaranteed SLA for 3 nines of uptime. But as the processor, it's their responsibility to add, delete, or modify data upon request. And by request, we don't mean opening a ticket with Microsoft. We mean every time a user hits the delete key on their keyboard or right-clicks on their mouse and hits delete, or any process or script that you use that happens to delete or modify data, right? If those requests are authenticated by valid credentials, they'll be considered legitimate and they will be honored. And the right side of the slide lists the most common causes of illegitimate data deletion requests. And again, customers, not Microsoft, are logistically, operationally, and contractually responsible for protecting data from these threats. So whether accidental, malicious, or fraudulent, the responsibility in all cases is on the controller, and the controller is the customer. And the key here is to understand the difference between data replication for high availability and backup for data restoration and business continuity. And Matt talks about this a lot better than I do.
I don't know, you were doing a great job. You were on a roll. So I like to use examples when it comes to this kind of thing, because Microsoft does have an incredibly resilient network. For example, with Exchange Online, at any given time, you might be connected to any one of 4 different Exchange servers. In fact, your phone and your desktop could be connected to 2 different servers at any one time. The reason for this is Microsoft is taking backups of their own data and also replicating that in case they have a data center failure. So when we say, does Microsoft do a backup, that's an example of where they're replicating the data in order to preserve that data for you in the event of the complete loss of a data center. With SharePoint Online as another example, SharePoint Online is backed up and you have 10 days from when a data deletion event occurs. You have 10 days to get a support ticket finished before that data is rolled off and is no longer available for restoration. In the event that you do need SharePoint data restored, when they restore it, they don't restore 1 or 2 files. They restore the entire site collection to the point in time that they took the backup, which means that any work done subsequent to that is going to get paved over by the backup. In the case of Exchange Online, by default, you have 14 days from when an email is deleted for it to be removed from the recycle bin. An administrator can increase that time to 30 days, but no longer. So when we talk about resiliency, when we talk about Microsoft's ability to recover from a disaster, it is absolutely there. Hardware failures, software failures, natural disasters, lightning strikes that happened here in San Antonio and took out part of the Azure network, no data was lost. But when it comes to actually being able to granularly restore content, that's what a backup tool like Spanning does. Dave?
And here's the proof. For Microsoft's Office 365 SLA. And if you want to see this for yourself, you can open your Edge browser and use Bing to Google it. So yes, I mean, it's your data, it's your job. Both the vendors and the analysts agree. I mean, we talked about Microsoft. You will see the same thing if you Google your Salesforce agreements or things upon that. You'll learn the same thing if you Google your Google. It's all the same. The analysts agree. Really, and there was so much about moving from on-premise, moving to the cloud to get rid of that infrastructure support requirement and that requirements around application availability and concern about resilience, that the idea of data protection kind of got lost for a lot of people. But obviously, based on what we saw here, not a lot of these smart people who were watching. And here's some specifics around Microsoft from guidance from Gartner. Certainly, hits a lot of the things that Matt talked about in terms of there are some native processes that offer a level of data protection, but they are not going to meet the RPO or RTO requirements of organizations that of sufficient size that have BCDR plans in place, that have compliance requirements around their RTO or RPO. These are not things that Office 365 consistently offers. Now, one thing we do always want to talk about, because it is important if you're not doing it yet, we found more and more it's not a problem, especially after the increase in phishing and increase in account takeover and business email compromise that we saw since COVID. But whatever you do, even if you do not buy Spanning, do something around multi-factor authentication. It is the best mitigation technique to protect against credential theft for Office 365 users. That is the biggest hole in your Office 365. So public service there. And I try to pull the animation off of that, but there's where you can Google that on your Bing. And one question we get a lot, and this is kind of building off of that, Microsoft provides native tools for business for data protection. The big one we hear is, what about the archives? And Matt is really good at explaining why the archive is not a backup recovery solution.
Sure. The archive and e-discovery solutions for Office 365 are really built around use cases for companies to preserve data in a litigation event. And so initially they're geared toward legal use cases, not restoration use cases. They're used by lawyers and admins. Well, they're really used by admins under the guidance of lawyers, because essentially what an administrator has to do when they're using these tools is do a broad search across the entire corpus of Office 365 to find the content that they're looking for, and then place a legal hold on that content. Typically, you're looking at email and chat, but it can, in certain circumstances, extend to documents inside of Office 365. And it doesn't restore the data. What it does is it creates a case, and then that case can be downloaded by the administrator, and it comes down in this huge zip archive with a manifest file. Then it's up to the administrator to wade through that case to determine whether the documents are in or out, or hand it all over to a legal department for them to decide what's in and what's out, as the search terms may need to be modified. None of this has to do with backup and restore. It is used that way, but what most administrators find very quickly that's lacking in trying to do this, first of all, is being able to restore the content back into the end user's folders. It's a download. It's not simple. It's complicated to go find all this content, and it's strictly controlled by administrators. Whereas a tool like Spanning Backup for Office 365 is designed for data protection. It's designed to quickly find content from any point in time and restore it either back into the user's OneDrive or Mailbox, or into a SharePoint site, or under the guidance of an administrator, we can also do cross-user restores. So if I want to restore content from one user that may have just left into another user that has just taken over their role, I can do that very simply with tools like Spanning Backup for Office 365. The other thing is Spanning runs automatically in the background. Once you do the install, we run once a day to back up your data and as many times as you want on demand. We're designed for quick and easy restores. That's what we do. And not only are we built for administrators, but we also have an end user interface. So end users can self-service their restores. So those tiny emergencies don't necessarily have to go all the way to the help desk to get service. They can be handled by an end user rather than an administrator. Dave?
Super. So, hey, we told you why you need to back up your Office 365. I think now and Matt started to talk about why you want spanning to protect your Office 365. And I think there's so many things that are great about our product. The three things that I probably want to talk about most is, one, is that we do provide enterprise class security, scalability, and compliance. So we have customers with as many as 20,000 users on Office 365. We meet compliance requirements of all major regulations across numerous industries, and our security versus, we connect to Office 365 using application level authorization using the OAuth 2.0 protocol versus many products, many of our competitors that will use service accounts which require the use of a password and a username. And that password, that account is going to be an administrative account. Those of you who follow the news may have seen that there was, in addition to the SolarWinds hack, the same hackers had infiltrated a number of Office 365 implementations, leveraging administrative privileged accounts. So we do not use those, we do not leverage them, we do not attack that way. The other thing is, Matt actually talked about it, was the end user restoration. So super easy to use for recovery that end users can be allowed to restore their own data. And finally is the ease of implementation. Spanning for Office 365 installs in less than 2 minutes. And securely through, because we're purpose-built for Office 365, there's that secure connection is automatic. There's minimal configuration. It is super easy to use, super easy to manage, super easy to administer. So rather than continue talking, I'm going to pass things over to Matt, who's going to demonstrate the solution. So
Sure, I just need to be made a presenter.
I'm in the midst of that, and there you go.
Thank you. And I see what you mean. I want it to show, let me do this.
Yeah, there's a little drop down.
There you go, got it. You guys should be able to see my screen now. So Spanning Backup for Office 365 installs as an Azure application. As Dave said, it takes about 93 seconds to get us installed. Once that's done, inside of Spanning Backup, you simply go in and you license the users that you want to apply. In our 14-day free trial, we allow you to license up to 100 users and 10 SharePoint sites. Of course, once you purchase the product, you can purchase as many licenses as you like, and we will back up SharePoint as well. So from inside of Spanning Backup, I can view my users, as I'm logged in as an administrator, by the way. I can view my users and their backups. If I want to view a backup, I simply choose View Backups. And rather than show you the user interface for an end user, I'll just say, if you can imagine this user interface for Carol with Mail, Calendar, Contacts, and OneDrive showing, she wouldn't see SharePoint or Dark Web, but she would see her activity and backup history. And the end users can then do all of this work themselves. There's some other little differences. For example, if I go over here to OneDrive and I scroll down and find a couple of files for Carol to restore, I can do that. I can also look at a specific file and view all versions of the file. So if we have multiple instances of that file, you can choose the date upon which you want to restore that file. As I said, I'm logged in as an administrator, so when I choose restore, it's going to offer to allow me to restore to a different user or right back into Carol's OneDrive. In this case, I'll go ahead and choose a different user, and I'll choose my farm administrator account, and we'll start that restore. While the restore is going on, I want to show you that we also protect SharePoint. We protect SharePoint at the site collection level. This allows us to offer a feature we call site collection-based backups, which means that by default, automatically, we'll back up all new site collections. So any new SharePoint team sites or sites associated with Microsoft Teams and SharePoint or Office 365 groups will automatically be backed up, whether your administrators know they're being created or not. So you're automatically covered. But we also offer the ability to turn off a site collection. This might be in the case where you're using SharePoint Online as an extranet and you have trading partners that you're doing business with, and you're contractually obligated to delete their data after you're done with business. This would allow you not only to delete the site out of Office 365, but when you flip off this bit, in 30 days, we will delete the backup data as well, ensuring that you maintain your contractual obligations. Just like with user backups, I can go in and view a backup, and I can browse through the libraries, sites, and subsites in that site collection to view their backups and perform the same type of restores. Office 365 also offers dark web monitoring. Dark web monitoring is a feature that allows you to monitor the domains associated with an Office 365 tenant and be able to protect them with our sister company's capability of ID Agent and monitor for dark web activity for your end users. We have an immutable activity log that shows any activity that occurs inside your tenant. In this case, it shows that me as the farm administrator viewed Carol Beard's backup. I then performed a cross-user restore, and then when that backup took place, then this is me also viewing that SharePoint site collection-based backup. So I can see any activity going on and evaluate any administrator and the activity that they're taking. We also have our backup history. It shows the good, the bad, and the ugly of whether or not we were successful with our backups. A problems log that allows us to view those problems that may have occurred and decide whether we need to take action on them or not. And then under settings, we have a number of different settings, like a daily status notification email to tell you how we're doing and whether or not we were successful. We offer configurable retention policies for each of the workloads that we protect so that you can mirror your retention policies in SharePoint Online with the retention policies in Spanning Backup for Office 365. We offer an API token so that you can use PowerShell to manage your tenant. And then we automatically bring in your Office 365 global administrators, but if you want to add additional backup administrators, you can do that as well. So let's jump back into Office 365 here. And we'll go look at my OneDrive, and I'll show you that backup completed successfully. We always do a non-destructive restore, which means that we construct a restored on folder for the date and time that the restore was successful. So in this case, we'll jump into the 26th, which is right here. And here are the 3 documents that I chose to restore. So from here, you can just use Office 365's native functionality to move these documents anywhere you like within your OneDrive or to other sites if necessary. So we make it really easy for you to be able to perform your backups. We make it easy to license your users, get information you need, and get the information back into the user so that they can start working again. The product, like I said, it installs very quickly, and I'm going to pass this back to you, Dave, because I am just rambling. So it's super easy to install, really easy to manage in the user interface, and it, as one of my customers said to me yesterday, it just works. So, Dave?
I do not have presenter mode.
So Dave, while you guys are handing that back and forth, a couple of questions that came in. Let's hit these up right away because they're relevant. So question came in, why can't I use my recycle bin as a way to restore a lost email?
So the recycle bin in SharePoint will hold documents for 93 days. And once the documents have been aged out of the recycle bin, they will be removed permanently. As Dave said earlier, the average time to figure out you've had a data loss event is 177 days. So that just doesn't match up for data restoration the way that we envision it.
Okay. And then another question that came in is, does this in any way protect me from a ransomware attack?
It absolutely does. In the event of a ransomware attack, there's a number of things that can happen, but primarily your data is corrupted and your data is made unavailable to you because of an encryption event usually. When you pay the ransom, they're supposed to give you back the key to be able to decrypt your data. But in the event, in the case of spanning backup for Office 365, we will back up that data. You can use spanning backup to restore the data to the point before the ransomware attack occurred and be up and running in minutes.
Okay, just pulling my deck back up here. Looking for questions from the audience. I got another one here, which is, how long does it take to restore a mailbox in Office 365? Well, we gave a gist of it, but have you ever timed it?
Depends on how much data you have. You know, it always depends on how much data we're restoring. It's going to take 10 times longer to restore 10 times more data. But in order to initiate the restore, it takes you less than a minute if you know spanning, 2 minutes if you don't. But then the time it takes it has everything to do with the network bandwidth between our backup data center and the Microsoft data center that we're restoring the data into.
Okay, so I'm keeping an eye on the questions. I'm keeping my eyes on anybody raising their hand. While we're waiting to see if any other questions come in, you mentioned a 14-day trial, so I just put a note up here. If you are interested in a 14-day trial of the spanning solution, simply send us either contact your account manager or email us at info@bidexbit.com. We'll also be sending out a link after this webinar later this week with a link to a registration form where you can just register for either a 14-day trial of the solution, or you can get a demo where you can really get into more questions about your business, how you're using Office 365, maybe something specific that you didn't get a chance to do on this call. So again, if you're interested, simply contact your account manager or send us an email at info@ with either the subject line, free Office 365 trial or demo. And at the same time, we will send out a link. I want to remind everyone, again, while I do see another question came in, is that we will be doing something similar but different for
Salesforce
on February 23rd. And we invite you to that. If you go to our website right now and go to our events page, and I think I'm going to just move ahead on my slide deck here because there is some more information about that there. We're doing Q&A right now. Here's a reminder about the February 23rd at 1 o'clock. You can also go to our website. And again, a reminder that this solution is not just available for Office 365 and Salesforce, but G Suite as well. Here's a question that came in, which is there a limit to how many accounts can be backed up?
There's no limit. We have some of our largest customers have over 100,000 users in spanning, so there's no limit.
Good, and we'll keep things open as long as there's questions coming in. This one says, how granular can an inbox restore be? Can you restore just a single email being deleted, or do you have to restore the whole mailbox?
As granular as you liked, right down to a single email. So as you saw with the document demonstration, I restored 3 documents. You could do the same with an email. You could also select a folder and restore the folder, or choose to restore the whole inbox.
Okay. All right, here's a question that came in. How long does spanning keep the data backed up?
We keep it forever unless you apply a retention policy to it. We keep it for as long as you have a license on the user.
Okay. I got some more questions coming in here, so bear with me. How to restore a post or chat message in the Teams app?
I'm sorry, what was it?
How do I restore a post or chat message in the Teams app?
So with Spanning Backup for Office 365, we're releasing our Teams conversation capability this quarter. So right now we don't have it, but we will have it by the end of this quarter. The funny thing is that nobody can restore a Teams conversation. They can only export them because there's no API to restore a Teams conversation in the channel conversation or a chat. So we're going to be offering the ability to back up and export Teams conversations by the end of Q1. So you can look for, Dave will be slamming everybody on the planet with information about that because that's our next big launch.
All right, the questions are really flying in, so please bear with me, and thank you to the audience. Can it show the exact time of full backup daily schedule?
So we do an initial full, and then we do nightly incrementals. So there's only one full, and we kick off our backups at 8 p.m. In region, so Central Time, or if you're in AP Sydney time, or if you're in EU Ireland. And but everything's in queued. There's not a specific time that everybody gets started, so we don't actually display that.
Okay, we got more questions. Can I restore a user's mailbox and the rest to another user?
Yes. That's called a cross-user restore.
All right, hold on. Can it show the exact, yeah, we already covered that one. Okay, we're still open for questions, but let's see, here's a question. Yeah, we got that one, the message. Okay, is dark web monitoring an add-on to subscription, as I don't find it on my end? So yeah, that's a relatively new service. I don't know if I'm even up to speed with that. Let's discuss that.
Sure. So it kind of depends. And so is it an add-on feature? Yes, it is. Our list price for Spanning Backup for Office 365 is $4 per user per month. And the dark web monitoring is an additional 50 cents per user. The advantage of Spanning's dark web monitoring feature is that we protect the entire domain regardless of the number of users. So even if an account, like let's say that you have an alias for info@mycompany.com, but it doesn't have an Office 365 account, but those credentials are found on the dark web, we'll still list those credentials. That's why we do domain monitoring instead of user monitoring. So it is an add-on feature. If you're working through a partner or through an MSP, like Bit by Bit, then they would also offer additional features through our sister company, ID Agent, and be able to offer even more than Spanning Backup's dark web monitoring features. So there's a scale for that capability.
Yeah, and I would imagine, I mean, Matt, we have a lot of clients already using, have already purchased the dark web monitoring from us, so we would just need to understand how to make sure that's integrated into their Spanning instance, correct?
That's correct.
All right, for those that want to stay, we got more questions. What if a user receives an email and immediately deletes it and empties its trash? Is it not backed up if they don't leave it until the next day?
It'll be in their recycle bin and we'll catch it there.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate all the questions here. I think I am caught up with the questions. Let me just double check though. We did leave time for them and we're actually using it up, which is great because everyone's got a lot of questions. So I'm still looking for questions. And again, if somebody does want to raise their hand, yeah, we've got these questions so far. So it looks like we are up to speed. Let me just check to see if there's any questions we haven't answered yet. Please bear with me, and really appreciate Dave and Matt, your participation here, everyone that's in the audience today. Once again, as I'm just checking one more time for questions, if you want to have a one-on-one, where you bring your important Office 365 admins to a call, we'll facilitate the right people, kind of go through your specific situations, your detailed questions, take a look at your volume, figure out what your pricing would be for this, and we could take it from there. So I'm checking. I don't see any new questions that came in. If we didn't get to a question that you wanted answered, please feel free to send us a question at info@vidxbit.com. Same email address to schedule a trial or a demo. Anything else before we wrap this up? Matt or Dave, this was great. Thank you.
No, I appreciate you taking the time with us today. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for joining us.
Yes, and the session has been recorded, so sometime in the next day or two, it will be up on our website. I want to wish everyone a safe day, and again, thank our friends from Spanning and all of you that attended.
Thanks.